everybody, Andrew here from the Zelda Hub. Boy, we have some really good news for the new Hyrule Warriors game coming out in just a couple months. We found out through a presentation that was done from Koei Tecmo just a few hours ago that not only is Impa in the game, that was the Sheikah warrior that we saw in the original trailer, but she's also playable, which has a lot of people excited, as Impa was one of the playable characters in the original Hyrule Warriors, but it was an original Impa. This is not an original Impa. This is Impa from Breath of the Wild, but younger. Also, we got a little bit of a tiny little hint more of egg baby guardian thing. It hasn't been given a name yet, but from what we can tell, it kind of looks like maybe this is the R2D2 of the Legend of Zelda universe, at least in the adorableness factor. Anyways, we're going to do a roundtable discussion this week. I've brought some other members of the Zelda Hub on board this week. One of them has been featured on this channel before. Matthew, will you want to say hello to the people?
Hello! It's been a while.
If you all
it's just been
want
a
to
while
think
for
back,
me.
yeah, it's been. I think the last time I had you on was like an E3 preview episode from like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Sorry it's been so long.
Also, from the Legend of Zelda Hub page, we have Jess from all the way down under. Say hello.
Hey everyone!
Jess has been with me for several years. She's a loyal page admin, posts a lot of cool artwork. Also, a huge collector of Legend of Zelda paraphernalia, just as I am, and it's really fun to
I
have.
don't think I'm as bad as you are.
Oh yeah, I'm like burning through the wallet just to stock that little room full of Zelda stuff over there. And finally, last but not least, we have brought the lovely and talented Helena from the UK. She is a mod on our official Facebook group. Say hello, Helena.
Hi guys, hope you're all doing okay.
All right, everybody. So, I don't know what to say. Things were a little confusing about when and where this thing was going to be presented and how. I know a lot of us thought we were getting like a mini direct thing, but instead we got an hour and a half live presentation showing off gameplay, and there was a trailer that was released worldwide. I went over some of the things that we learned. Matt, I'll start with you. What did you think about what you saw?
So, I only really had time to watch the English trailer, but yeah, just being able to see everybody in a little bit of action, seeing a younger Impa looks great. We all know how this story is going to end, and it's going to be very, very tragic.
Yeah, get out the tissues.
I know that I'm ready for this game, but I don't know if my heart is ready for the ending yet.
Oh, I'm with you. And Helena, what are your thoughts on the trailer?
I've actually first of all I found the Japanese one before I found the English one. Actually, it looks absolutely stunning. The graphics look amazing. They're obviously playing up the Switch's capabilities to the absolute maximum that they can. They're obviously building on previous successes. I have to say though, the egg thing does look very, very cute. I don't know if it has an official name because it's just unnamed, but I kind of like the idea of that as a companion. I think it's playing into the whole Breath of the Wild concept a little bit more with sort of the more, what's what I'm looking for? Like the more technical aspects of it, because obviously you have the Sheikah Slate and Breath of the Wild. So I think it's like expanding on that little part of it, which looks very good. Yeah, definitely. I'm very excited for this, I have to say. Very, very excited.
And Jess, what would you like to add on your thoughts on the trailer?
Yeah, it looks very much what we, I suppose, expected from a Hyrule Warriors game, which is fine by me. I'm going to get it just so I can beat up a bunch of enemies and feel overpowered in a sense.
Yeah.
It just looks really cool, and I'm really excited to see what happened during that war 100 years ago, even though we all know how it ends, as Matt said.
Yeah, that's kind of Hyrule Warriors, or well, any Warriors game in a nutshell. They very much make you feel empowered. You start off, just kind of normal, and after a few hours, you just feel like you can destroy anything. You're just cutting through hordes of enemies, and I've always considered Hyrule Warriors a stress relief. Between the Wii U and the Switch, I have thousands of hours just into these games, and I know I'm going to do it again with this. We did learn something right before we started recording. I was speaking with another admin. In fact, it was the person who's editing this video, and we discovered through the magic of Twitter that we're getting even more Hyrule Warriors info, folks. Probably, I'd say about 16 hours as of this recording. We're going to get more information from what's it called, Matt? I believe you mentioned it earlier, the World Tokyo event.
Oh, Tokyo Game Show.
Tokyo Game Show is going on in Japan, and apparently they're going to reveal more Hyrule Warriors info, and from what I have learned, this is not 100% truth because translations can be weird. We may be getting another character drop.
Wouldn't
So,
surprise me.
yeah, Jess, if you could choose anybody from the Breath of the Wild's, canon, who would you like to see be this next character named?
Oh, that's a difficult one. I don't know, maybe Puro or someone. I don't know. It's hard to decide because I don't. Like, it'd be cool to see the new champions and stuff like that, but they
Right.
weren't alive 100 years ago.
That's right.
Well, Sidon was.
Sidon was a baby. He couldn't fight.
Hey, now if
So
they
I
could
would like to
put
see him.
if they could put Medley in Hyrule Warriors 1, Baby Sidon could totally have his own little side quest thing.
Yeah, besides, 100 years ago, there may have been characters alive that they just didn't have time to talk about in Breath of the Wild, so...
That's a good
Who
point,
knows?
Matt.
You're right there. It could be entirely new characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. You go back to the original Hyrule Warriors. We had Lana, Linkle. We even had a brand new villain in Sia. So,
Yep.
Sia was my favorite.
oh, I loved her.
Yeah, Sia was pretty great.
Just that diabolical, villainous, almost like her personality, to me, was kind of like what I always thought Varen's personality would have been like. You remember Varen from the Oracle games?
Oh yeah.
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 I always thought that's how kind of her personality would have been. But yeah, that's a really good point. It's we should. I'm not going to say we should assume because you never know, but it's a foregone conclusion that there would be people involved here that's not around 100 years later, and I'm anxious to see if Koei Tecmo and Nintendo decides to introduce new characters in this game.
But you know what would be a cool idea? It just popped in my head. If they do the adventure maps again, having the new champions and stuff like that being playable for the adventure maps or something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We haven't heard anything about other modes in this game yet. I really do hope they bring back the adventure maps because that actually was my favorite part of the game.
I love the adventure maps.
Oh god, yeah, it's
So
unlocking
much-
stuff.
Much time into those. I said you could sink so much time into each of those adventure maps. Each
Some of
one
them are
could
really
take you
hard.
Easily 20 plus hours. And
Oh
there
yeah,
were
some of them are very difficult.
and how many of them were there? 10? 12?
Yeah, I think at the
don't
end
remember.
of it, yeah, because they covered so many different games. There was the Wind Waker one, the Twilight Princess one.
And they all had their own separate, unique mechanics. It wasn't just go from each square to each square fighting baddies.
Right.
I remember the Majora's Mask one, you still had to do it within the 3-day time limit.
and then Twilight Princess had the darkness. And that's kind of it kind of brings up an idea for me, like, oh, since they're focusing on one game for this Hyrule Warriors sequel, it's obvious they're not gonna make adventure maps from other games this time. But Breath of the Wild's map is so huge, they could literally section that off into pieces for different adventure maps.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like do one for each of the areas, the tower areas.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you could have one for the
100%.
Gerudo region, one for the Akela region, one for, just different regions of the Great Plateau. My prediction for the new character that may or may not be revealed, I'm actually going to go with King Daphnes. If you know the lore of Breath of the Wild, he is involved in a significant battle, the one in which he
Yes.
perishes at the Great Plateau. So I'm thinking maybe we get some kind of, even if it's like a side part or something, because God knows in the original Hyrule Warriors there were so many branching paths along the story that you could go. You had like Linkle's story there, and here's Toon Link's, and then everybody else's.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they could side into his little adventure off on the side while the heroes are off doing their thing.
Do you think as well, because obviously we know Impa's a playable character, do you think that a sideline with Impa is possible, based on that theory?
I think that's very possible. We don't know, really what her involvement was with the champions, and, other than that she was there 100 years ago. And that's probably the most intriguing thing about her is we're going to learn what was her involvement in the whole thing.
Yeah.
The only thing we ever learned about Impa in Breath of the Wild is she was waiting 100 years for Link to wake up out of the slumber and come find her. That's all we really knew about her. There was no character development with her. I think another possibility, I want to talk a little bit about future DLC content possibilities. It was mentioned a little bit ago in here that about the Champion's Descendants. Now, Hyrule Warriors 1 branched off into like a whole Wind Waker thing that had almost nothing really to do with the plot of the game. And then there was the Linkle side quest that, once again, really didn't have much to do with the plot of the game either. What if they made just a total side thing as DLC later with the Champion's Descendants that really doesn't have anything to do with the plot, but just, hey, let's make some, like a little side story with these 4 characters.
I could easily see them pulling that off. Like,
Yeah.
have a future story with, like, Sidon and, Sidon's the only one I can remember the name of offhand. The younger Gerudo girl.
Talking about Urbosa, Mipha, and Daruk?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously going to be a part of the main quest, but you're talking having a future story that's set place in the modern day with
the Descendants. That would be Inobo, Riju, Riju, and I forget
Tiba.
the bird guy's name.
Tiba.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, I could definitely see something done with them. They were probably the least fleshed out of the characters in Breath of the Wild. They really fleshed out the champions, especially with the DLC. But they didn't really get a chance to, especially, we got a lot with Sidon, guiding Link through the Zora region and helping him with the giant elephant thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
and having
my
to ride on his
there.
back
But we didn't get much out of some of the other descendants like we did with him. Like Bird Boy is just sitting over there, like kind of being emo.
Yep. About the most I remember about him is just, I'm a descendant of the great Rivali, Falco Rivali.
Yeah. So it'd be really nice if we got like some DLC, maybe fleshing some of them out a little more.
That
I
would
think
be
that'd be really
great.
fun. Another thing that we learned, and we kind of knew a little bit about this from the first trailer, but we didn't know about the rest. But you watch the trailer and it confirms itself. The voice actors from the original Breath of the Wild are going to be part of this game. They've brought
That's gonna
back
be
Joe
cool.
Hernandez, Amelia Gotham, Patricia Somerset. All of them are here. It looks like we even heard the Great Deku Tree, voiced by the great Sean Shiplock, who was also the voice of Revolin. So they're all here, and it looks like we're going to have a major cutscenes that involve voice acting. How do you guys feel about that?
Cool.
Go ahead.
I just think it'd be cool having the voice actors back again.
I think it's very
I think
fitting that, Hyrule Warriors technically was the first Zelda game to have in-game voice acting that wasn't just, hey, listen. We had a narrator in the first one, but now they're one-upping it and bringing in everybody from Breath of the Wild. That to me, it gives the game a lot more personality.
For sure.
And I think as well, if they're trying to link it to Breath of the Wild and the Breath of the Wild lore, obviously everybody's familiar with those voice actors, and obviously, well, for me especially, you link the voice to that character. So if they're taking it backwards or forwards, because obviously they could take us forwards as well as backwards. So if they're taking us along that timeline, I think it'll have some continuity in there as well.
Exactly. There are definitely some characters that I just associate with their voice, not necessarily just in Legend of Zelda lore, but like in general, like you hear that voice, you're like, oh, this is the character, to the point where sometimes you just get a little confused when you hear that voice and it's a different character. So for them to, if they were to have been like, here's all these characters that you recognize, but they have different voices, that would have been very much like cheating the rest of the people on like, but that's not what they sound like.
Just knowing how the Zelda community is, I don't think they'd be very happy if they pulled that.
Mm-hmm.
They'd just be super critical of it.
Yeah,
Indeed.
it's while not unheard of in gaming or any kind of voice acting situation, whether it be animated series or whatever, there is a precedence for that. But yeah, I do agree. I'm glad that they're back. I'm glad that they're, going with the same cast, keeping that continuity up. It really lets everything flow together because, we don't know what Breath of the Wild 2 is going to bring yet. We know absolutely nothing about that game at all. And we don't know if there's going to be voice acting in that or not. We don't know. We don't even know what the story is yet so much with that game. But
literally all we've seen still is that initial reveal of them crawling down into the catacombs and finding. Was that confirmed to be Ganon,
No.
or was that just
No.
heavily speculated?
it's heavily
No.
speculated because there's resemblances.
I was
Okay.
going to say it's not confirmed. I think, as Andrew just said, it's more a speculation. But if you look at it and look at the way that it's leading us to believe, then the logical conclusion is Ganon. But then, who's to say they're going to be logical?
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, Nintendo
This
does
is actually
like to do that.
Mario's corpse. Legend of Zelda takes place in the Mushroom Kingdom
Yep.
several centuries later.
Yeah.
Confirmed, 100%.
Confirmed.
I just confirmed it right here, right now.
Write the report up now. Put it on the website. Breath of the Wild
Will
2
do.
is actually a sequel to Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
But no, speaking of Ganon, though, that's who I'm hoping to see as our future, later character reveal. Mostly because, as we've stated earlier, there's only one way that this game can end. And I just want to play on the winning side of that battle.
Well, if you go back to the first Hyrule Warriors, you got the whole villain story arc.
For
The
sure.
villain
You
story
got,
was cool.
you got to play as Sia, Volga, Wizrow, and
Ganon.
wasn't that fun playing as Ganon?
Oh yeah, not just as Ganondorf, but you played as the big beast
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
And
Just
that
pummeling
opens
things, and you had,
possibilities.
like-
You mentioned the Beast. I want to play as the Divine Beasts.
Ooh,
That would be cool.
that would
Yeah.
be fun.
Isn't it Sidon? Don't they mention something about piloting the Divine Beast in the trailer that we've seen?
Yeah, I thought I had heard that too.
Yeah, they did kind of hint at it there. It kind of gives it hope that there'll be like a portion of the game developed for the beasts and going around and wrecking things.
Indeed, I hope so.
You would be
Even if
wrecking
it's
them if you were playing as the Divine Beasts, though, because they're huge.
Oh yeah.
Even if it's just like not even part of the main story, but like a mode you could do, that would be cool.
Oh yeah.
Unless they're gonna do that as like one of the side quests, maybe. You know,
It's very
like
possible.
one of the adventure maps. That's an
That could be
idea.
On the adventure
Yeah,
map
that'd be pretty
or
fun.
a note or something. Yeah.
Yeah, just a thought that popped into my head.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, it would be really fun to just jump in Varuta and just wreck stuff as this giant mastodon. You talked earlier about feeling empowered while playing Hyrule Warriors. You don't get
Yeah.
more powerful than riding a mastodon around and just doing whatever you want.
Oh, that would be great.
Okay, so we've pretty much covered everything that was revealed to us in this trailer. We've speculated a little bit. Did everybody get their prediction in on what possibly the new character is going to be?
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be Impa.
Yeah, I said Ganon.
Impa. We've already got Impa.
We
No,
already saw him.
sorry, I misunderstood. I'm an idiot. I'm still half asleep. Don't judge me.
It's okay.
I'm wondering whether Linkle may make a comeback or a descendant of Linkle.
It's possible.
Yeah, somebody
Yeah.
else brought that. Somebody commented that on the page a couple days ago about Linkle being involved, and that kind of got me wondering. She is a Hyrule Warriors exclusive character, and so it would totally make sense for them to create a descendant. And here's the twist to that: if they create a descendant to Linkle, she's canon. She'll finally be canon in the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true, actually.
Yeah.
And that would go for any new character that they're bringing is and that's what's so big about this. Like anything new they make is going to be officially part of the story. It's not going to be like because Hyrule Warriors played it super safe. It's like they just created a whole other universe over here, separate from the other three universes they were interacting with, and basically was like, okay, anything we do doesn't affect anything over here, but it still affects our own Hyrule Warriors universe. And this, it's not just going to be affecting one universe, it's going to be affecting the entire story. So I'm very anxious to see how Koei Tecmo and Nintendo
Mhm.
work together to do that, because I'm pretty sure they're going to bring in some new characters. In fact, I would be very surprised if they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most likely they would bring some new ones in. They did it with the first one, they're not going to do it with the second.
Yeah, they would. I mean, they've already confirmed a new character in the form of Little Egg Boy.
Yeah, he's
Little
on the
Mike
cover of the
Wazowski
game.
Guardian baby thing.
Yeah,
I
he's
want
on.
a plush version of that. I want a plushy version of that.
Oh God, yes.
That would
Now,
be
what
nice.
do you
Yeah,
guys
maybe-
think the role of that little egg baby is going to be? I'm kind of going with he's going to be the guide. He's going to be like this game's version of what did they call the fairy in the first one? It wasn't Navi.
No,
Proxy, I think it was.
maybe?
I think her name was Proxy because she
Proxy.
was like, what was that?
Yeah, you got it. It's Proxy.
Yeah. It is
Yeah.
Proxy? Okay, yeah, because she's like literally Link's proxy because he doesn't talk, so she does for
That's
you.
kind of what I'm thinking. I don't think he's going to be playable. I think he's going to be
Unless-
the companion guide.
Unless he's not a companion, could he be the narrator?
Ooh.
Ooh, that's a
Ooh.
very, very good idea.
Because if he's part of like the technology, kind of like, you know, the Sheikah Slate almost, you know, when you're playing Breath of the Wild, that's kind of like your guide stroke narrator. So could it take on more of the narrator role? So it would just be, I mean, an NPC that's going to follow you around, but instead of being the guide, it's more telling the story to, you know, the player and filling them in on the lore behind, you know, wherever it is that they're going.
Yeah, it could be like if you follow Marvel Comics, there's a character in there called the Watcher. Uatu of the Watcher. He basically is kind of a narrator for the comics at times, and he basically just observes and records things that are going on. And that's very possible we could have a character like that. That's a really good idea. I really like that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think if they're wanting to do something not necessarily slightly new, but if they're wanting to take it in a sort of almost a different direction. Because I mean, we've had our Navi, we've had our Fi, we've had Tackle, haven't we? We've had everything. So, you know, maybe it could almost be up to the player to take themselves through it. I mean, I don't know.
Very much a lot of possibilities right now. I remember back, you know, when we were leading up to the days and months of the release of the original game. I could just remember a lot of info dumps, a lot of just going on Twitter or Facebook and there being like a 45-second video revealing, say, a character or an item or a mode or something. I really hope we get that again with this. One of my favorite parts leading up to Hyrule Warriors was the hype. And
yeah, for sure.
Koei Tecmo is very well known for hyping their games.
Indeed.
They're almost Nintendo-like in the sense that they like to keep attention drawn to what they're doing. They're not the type of company that just says, "Hey, here's the game. We'll see you when it comes out." No, they're hype machines, very Nintendo-like, and I really hope that, you know, we're about 2 months away. I want to see that again. I want to see the videos of like. And, you know, they always ended with, like, Link opening a chest, and then it's like, oh, hey, you get to use this item in this game. I want to see more of that this time. I want to see, like... Because we know we got the runes in the game. We've seen Zelda with the bombs and stuff like that. And I want to learn more about what those do. I want to learn more about, you know, what's each champion's weapon going to be like. You know, that's the kind of videos I want to see coming up.
Definitely. I mean, I think as well, aren't they saying that Link's going to start with the wooden sword, but then if you have a Breath of the Wild save game, you're going to get an upgrade, or you're going to get a different sword?
Yeah, you get the training sword, which looks like another wooden sword.
Which probably means it'll be just like a skin for the wooden sword, I'm imagining.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. Here's a good question. Amiibo were kind of a big part of the original Hyrule Warriors. Will they have a role in this, and will we get Hyrule Warriors related amiibo? I want an amiibo of Egg Baby.
Yes,
yeah, that was my big guardian.
We need that. Even if it doesn't do anything in the game, we need an Egg Baby amiibo.
Also, Egg Baby for Smash,
or a 3-foot statue, or a 25-foot statue just out somewhere in Japan dedicated to it.
So are you saying Egg Baby for Smash, Matt?
Yes, Egg Baby for Smash. Make it happen. Make it happen.
I could just imagine being this little teeny tiny character in Smash and just having this overpowered laser just shooting at everybody. It would be so freaking awesome.
The entire map. It's like
they'd probably say that for like the final Smash or something.
No. The final Smash is going to be erecting a tower just right where you stand, and it just stays there the entire game and completely changes your map.
That would be cool.
There's something I want to bring up. You kind of almost brought something there. In the video that we saw today, in the trailer, we saw something that I did not expect to see. We saw one of the towers from Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
Yeah.
it
It came up right from it was during the part where they were showing Egg Baby. I wonder what kind of role the towers could have in this game.
Good question.
Could they be almost like a capture the tower kind of device?
Yeah, I could see them being like having a similar role to like what bases had in the original original Breath of the Wild, original Hyrule Warriors, where you
Yeah.
have to like try and capture them and
Yeah.
keep on to them, and if they get captured from you, then more enemies will spawn. I
Yeah,
can see
so-
that
so-
sort of thing happening.
Now,
Yeah,
Matt,
so
you
kind of like a capture the flag almost.
yeah. Matt, you said you watched some of the Japanese presentation, the live stream. Did you see any kind of proof or anything of there being bases or anything like that, like in the original?
I couldn't see a lot of it. I mean, I was on a bit of a dodgy connection when I was watching it. So, Matt, did you see anything more?
I saw a little bit. I didn't see anything like looking at the mini map that they had that looked like really a base or anything similar. There were some like slightly larger areas in between hallways that could have been base like, but nothing that really stood out to me as there's that's gonna be a base. That's a base right there. Nothing along those lines.
What I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about this evening, after I'm done with everything and I've sent this video onto the editor and done everything that I need to get done for the day. I'm thinking about tonight sitting down and watching that entire presentation and maybe doing some kind of analysis or something and seeing what kind of things I can pick up and maybe doing like a just a solo follow-up type thing to this and see if I can pick up anything we didn't pick up as a collective. As I have not watched it yet.
That might be an interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Get my game explain on.
I was gonna say, don't go and steal their analysis machine.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over and steal Andre's analysis machine and put all the info I can in and see what pops out.
For sure.
All right. As we come closer to the end of the discussion, I do want to bring up a couple more Hyrule Warriors related topics. One is, we've covered kind of the ground bases. We've talked about characters. We've talked about possible modes. We talked a little bit about DLC possibilities. And we even spoke a little bit on Amiibo. But there's one thing that we haven't spoke on, and I really feel like I want to get this out there. We talked a little bit about the timeline more, but I want to talk about that more. This obviously is a prequel to Breath of the Wild. Anybody who's seen either one of the trailers knows that. But will this prompt Nintendo to finally reveal the official placement of what's going to end up being a trilogy once Breath of the Wild 2 comes out in the official Legend of Zelda timeline?
I almost think they're going to have to. Because if you're saying that Breath of the Wild is going to be a trilogy, obviously we've had Breath of the Wild and we've had the first Hyrule Warriors. We've got Breath of the Wild 2 dropping, and now obviously they're dropping Age of Calamity on us. So we kind of need to know where it fits roughly within the timeline. But then again, I know there are people who almost say, well, how can the timeline split the three ways? And that's a whole separate discussion entirely. Mm-hmm. But I'm wondering whether, with it being called Age of Calamity, is it going on the hero fails? I mean, certainly for this one, it must be hero fails because it's Age of Calamity.
Yeah.
Unless I'm wrong.
I've had a very different view of how Breath of the Wild and its world works. I think it's the culmination of any timeline. That no matter what path it takes, this is the penultimate here. This is where everything ends up. It's always going to end up with the Calamity and all of these events, no matter what. It's just And it's also Nintendo's creative way of getting away from that messy three-way split confusion
Hmm.
and getting into an
Just Nintendo
actual
going,
solo
screw the
timeline.
timeline. It all ends here,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Well, also, you know, from a storytelling standpoint, it helps Nintendo because, let's face it, everybody, that thing in Hyrule Historia is confusing as heck. I've
Yep.
followed Zelda
Yeah.
since I was a kid,
Yeah.
since like the '80s, and even I have to pull out the book and like, okay, which one is this game in again, and how does it connect to this one? And it's like, okay, three timelines is very, very weird and confusing. I think it's really Nintendo's way of saying, hey, we wrote ourselves into a corner here. We shouldn't have done this. Let's give ourselves a mulligan and just have everything converge into this. And then going forward, we can just build off of this and not have to confuse our entire fan base in the process.
They just shouldn't have made a timeline in the first place.
Agreed.
And let that just be part of the fan experience, is just speculation.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the fun parts about the series before the timeline was revealed, is just speculating on which game came after which, and there was something fun about it.
Yeah, I love
I mean,
that. That was
one
one
of-
of the things that got me into like getting online with people and interacting was the whole Zelda timeline thing. Just because I can remember just sitting in like groups, like group chats, 15 years ago, and yes, people, I'm old, and sitting there and just being like, hey, this part, Zelda 2 is totally a sequel to this, and, Ocarina of Time should fall here, and it was just using your own creativity to draw up your own timelines was so much better than being like, here's three of them. One of them barely has anything in it, and then one of them has like a million things in it. And it's like, oh, okay, Nintendo, you just threw that together in like 5 minutes, didn't you?
Yeah. One of my theories before official timeline was always that it wasn't necessarily a timeline. It's a legend, and depending on where you lived in the world, they all had similar tales about a young boy in green going out to save their princess. But depending on where you lived in the world, like the people who lived closer to the ocean and had never seen anything beyond the seas, probably had a tale closer to what the Wind Waker was, or the people who lived maybe, up in the sky had a tale closer to what Skyward Sword was.
Right.
And then Nintendo comes along and is all like, no, they are all connected. And I'm like, oh, okay
I
then.
think the original intent was to go more of like the Dragon Quest / Final Fantasy tales of formula of each of these games are its own thing. Like there's some loose connections to other games, but they're basically their own story, their own characters, their own thing. I think that's originally what they were going for, but the fan base was like, no, give me Term Learn. And so Nintendo was like, okay, here's Term Learn, and put out that book.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you were saying about the similarities with the Final Fantasy universe, because you can actually pick up any of the Legends of Zelda games and play it, regardless of how many or few you've previously played. But if you have played them, you almost form your own mini timeline in your head. So you're kind of like, oh, so this is the Wind Waker. Okay, so this is when they flooded the earth and everything else. But then you do have the ones that are kind of like, well, where does this one fit? Because obviously you have the darker ones, for example, Twilight Princess or Majora's Mask, which when you actually drill down, they have very dark undertones. And I know there are a lot of fan theories about Majora's Mask being the stages of grief. And I mean, if a child picked that up, then, that if the child picked up the game, they wouldn't know that. But as adults, we can read more into it. So I'm wondering whether there's what's what I'm looking for? There's almost like a subjectivity in there, so you imprint a little bit of yourself and your world onto it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's why his name is Link, because he is the link between player and game, and that's why up until Breath of the Wild, you've always been able to name him and do what you want with him, pretty much as far as his personality. And it's another reason a lot of people make this huge misconception on Link. He's mute. No, he's not. He's you. You're Link. That's the point. That's what they're going for. He doesn't have speaking parts outside of the little bit of ones he has in Wind Waker, or screaming. Because Link does talk. That's something that people overlook, especially in Breath of the Wild. He talks quite a bit because he has to explain things to people. He has to tell people things. He does very much speak. He's just not given dialogue.
Yeah.
Because they want the dialogue to come from the player. And that's what's always made Link so different than every other. They kind of do that with Mario too, mostly. It's kind of like a Nintendo thing. Even Samus, like outside of Other M, which we don't like to talk about here, she's kind of never really said much, and kind of leaves it up to the player to give her own thoughts and her own dialogue. So it's kind of a Nintendo thing to take these characters and these games and leave it up to the player as to what is the personality of this game. What is the personality of these characters? But we've kind of deviated a little with the voice acting being involved. And I talked a little bit about this with Jamie Mortellaro in the interview that went up just a few days ago. You guys can check it out in the link in the description. Actually, we could probably pop up a link here on the screen for you guys. I'll leave that up to the editor on how she wants to do that. But we were talking about Link talking and his personality and stuff, and how basically Link's personality is defined by the people around him. Especially in Breath of the Wild, the champions and the descendants basically, give Link his personality. And I've always said, and I said this to him, and I've said this to many a friend over the years, if Link ever says anything, I want it to be at the very end of the game. I want it to be very subtle. And I want him to say something that doesn't matter. I want him to say something like, I'm hungry.
Well, that's something we can all relate to.
Yeah, that's exactly being because you want to relate to. Because after let's say in your own life you've had a big day at work. You're exhausted. Everything's over with. You just got home. There's only one thing on your mind: food.
I actually got a better idea. Because most games, Link wakes up at the beginning of the game, so it should go. Time to go back to sleep, or I'm tired, or something like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, not necessarily I'm hungry. I'm tired. Because, sometimes when you've had a long day, it's not I'm hungry, it's I want to go back to bed.
Yeah, just have all the characters standing around after the big celebration of Link defeating whatever evil, and be like, everybody's like, yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that now, and everything's going to be better, and then have Zelda be like, and what about you, Link? What are you going to do? Have him just stretch. I think I'm going to get some sleep. And just have that be his only line. I think it would be very cool. This is only line,
only dialogue in the entire series. Just time for bed.
Yeah. Just nonchalant.
But it's true. But then it goes back to at the start of nearly every Zelda adventure. It's wake up, Link. Wake up.
Exactly.
It's the theme, yeah. Going all the way back to Ocarina of Time. Sleepy boy.
No, I'm pretty sure Link to the Past Link was in bed as well.
Oh yeah, he was.
And Link's Awakening.
And
Link's Awakening.
Yeah,
Although
technically, yeah.
technically he had been shipwrecked, but you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had an excuse in Link's Awakening. He was
Yeah.
kind of, passed out.
Unconscious.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
I think we've done a really good job of covering all the bases here. Do any? I want to go through each of you one at a time here. Give some last thoughts. Helena, any last thoughts about Hyrule Warriors 2 and what's coming up?
I personally think it's going to be a bundle of feels. I mean, Matt touched on it at the beginning. We all know what's going to happen, and I think through Breath of the Wild, we've grown to know and love these champions, and we're suddenly going to be faced with seeing their on-screen demise. But I think as well, I think the whole journey is almost going to be heart-wrenching. You know, the name says it all, Age of Calamity. So you're kind of almost expecting the heartbreak, but at the same time, are we going to be ready for it?
It's kind of like waiting on the inevitable, pretty much.
Yeah, you know it's happening, but I think at the same time, when it does happen, it's going to be a case of, do I need a Kleenex now?
We may very well. Okay, what about you, Jess? What are your final thoughts?
When it comes to this game, I gotta say I'm hopefully optimistic, because we all know how it's gonna end, but the story of how it gets there if it's done wrong, it's gonna be so wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm cautiously optimistic. I think they're gonna do a really good thing, but there's that little part of me that's like, what if they do it wrong, and what if it, like, even if it links up, it just might be bad storytelling. You get what I mean?
Yeah, it's like we know we're going to get, the deaths of at least five people, the four champions, the king, and the king. We know that's coming, but we also don't want this whole entire game to be like too depressing either. Which is why I think you're seeing things like the egg baby. That kind of brings us up a little bit. It's like, oh hey, look at this cute little like mascot character we're getting, and it's Nintendo. They're going to market the crap out of it. So yeah,
sure.
Here's something to bring us up, and I'm pretty sure there'll be dialogue and stuff between the characters. Link and Rivali is going to keep us going.
Oh, that's gonna be hilarious.
That's the best chemistry in the game.
100%.
And what about you, Matt? What's your final thoughts?
All I'm gonna say is spoon.
Spoon?
Yeah! Andrew, have you not seen that?
Yeah, I get it.
They order the game digitally. They give you a spoon.
Oh, yeah.
A ladle. No, Matt, Matt, can you use its official title? You get the ladle.
Sorry,
It's a spoon.
you get the lucky ladle.
There we
It's
go.
a spoon. It's a fucking spoon. Sorry, I don't know if we can cuss. It's a
Unfortunately,
friggin'
I
spoon.
won't be getting the magical spoon of destiny. I am very much physical copy master race over here.
It also says it may become available as paid DLC at a later time, but
Probably.
you get a spoon.
So that's it for your final thoughts?
Oh, I got something to add.
Okay.
I really hope the bloody Japanese physical extra thing comes to Australia or
Oh
wherever.
yeah, we didn't even talk about the collector's
The treasure
edition.
chest. The treasure chest. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, and please don't be like $300.
Yeah, right?
Oh my gosh, no.
I mean, I played more than that for the Breath of the Wild stuff.
Oh god, I bought so many versions of that game later on. And then I got that big blue book that was like a companion to the game. What was it called, Jess? I know you have it.
Creating a Champion, is that the one?
Yeah, and it came with like spirit orbs and a giant
Yeah, I got
bookmark.
like the super special edition, so mine's like in a big black box.
I got the blue one. You got the one that had like 4 spirit orbs, right?
Yep.
That's so freaking... Yours has the pictures of the divine beasts on them, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, mine's just like a normal spirit orb that you get from the monks. which is still really freaking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't cost an arm and a leg, but yeah, I hope those come to all who enjoy this game, no matter where in the world they are. But
Yeah, I'm in Australia, so I'll probably miss out on something.
yeah, Australia gets the shaft a lot.
Yeah, like with the
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild thing, we didn't get the Chica case thing that was supposed to come with it
I have that.
for the Switch.
I have
The
that.
Chica
Yeah,
was
I
it
know
the
what you're
Chica
talking
Slate
about.
case?
I think you can
Yeah,
find
I
those
know what you
online pretty cheap now. I think they made a lot of those.
probably, but still, it's like sucks. We miss out on so much.
Yeah, because
Jess,
you're like in such a little corner down there. I guess I'm assuming that that's like a manufacturing thing and not like a hey screw Australia thing. I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Can I just say, it's not just the Australians that get screwed; it's us Brits as well. I'm going to stick up for us a lot over this side of the pond.
Yeah, I'm quite happy I'm not alone.
I think the thing that the United States people over here in the States used to get screwed on the most was the you go back to the old My Nintendo rewards, physical rewards. They used to screw us on that. They used to give us the crappiest things. Like you'd see, oh, the UK, they're getting this like really awesome statue of all the Mario characters. Meanwhile, America gets trading cards with generic pictures of the characters on them. And it's like, Nintendo,
Yep.
don't you know we love you? Please stop. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and give my final thoughts on the whole Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I think it's going to be tons of fun, addictive. Hours and hours of gameplay will be had by all. I very much look, we've mentioned verbatim here that all of us have pretty much said this is going to be a sad ending, but I'm very much looking forward to the journey to that ending and seeing how these events unfold. I'm very anxious to see what Koei Tecmo and Nintendo add to this universe and to this storyline. And the thing I'm just looking forward to most is putting the game in my Switch, propping my feet up with a bag of Doritos, and just tearing through hordes of enemies. Just that, like I said, that stress relief, that feeling of
It's gonna be
empowerment,
satisfying.
just turning your brain off and smashing buttons. That's what I'm looking forward to, and everybody, I want to give you, each of you, all three of you have been amazing. Thank you for appearing on my podcast. I will definitely in the future bring you guys back for more stuff.
100%.
Thank you.
You just want my fancy accent.
Oh, I love your accent. It's beautiful. And also, I absolutely adore your sassiness, and I know the people listening to this are going to love it too.
I hope so.
All of you did an amazing job. I couldn't have asked for better. I want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. It's been great recording this. I'm going to try to get these out I do have an announcement I want to make here before we close out. On the 29th, that's 3 days from this recording, I am going to be recording an interview with the voice actor for Impa from Breath of the Wild, the original Breath of the Wild, Andy Gibson, Andy interviewing Andy. That's totally going to be the name of that episode. And it's been a while. It took me a long time to get her. She's a very busy woman. She does a lot of voice acting on a lot of anime and American cartoons, and we'll go into more about who she is and what she does in that episode. And I hope everybody will enjoy that. And that'll probably go up around Wednesday of next week. I'm hoping Wednesday or Thursday. And everybody, once again, thanks for listening, and enjoy yourselves, and enjoy Breath of the Wild, and enjoy Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.